There's an image I will never forget. Every night around 10 p.m., as I walked past my mother's room, I would see a soft bluish light slipping out from behind her half-closed door. The night lamp had been turned off long ago, but in her hands, the phone screen still glowed, casting a pale light across her thin cheek, like a lonely moon wrapped in mist. She was scrolling through Facebook, looking at family photos, reading old messages. Sometimes she'd smile quietly at a funny video. Sometimes she'd sit still, her finger resting for a long time on a photo from her youngest daughter's wedding. I didn't interrupt her. I didn't remind her. But inside took ban to worry, not because she was doing anything wrong, but because I knew whenever that light hadn't gone dark by 10 p.m., there was a good chance that my mother wouldn't fall asleep until 2 or 3 in the morning. Maybe you've seen that light too. Not harsh, not frightening, but quietly holding back the sleep you were hoping for. So, is something really happening beneath that little glow? If you're still awake, I invite you to stay with me, because the story I'm about to tell might also be your story. My mother is a gentle woman. She eats on time, drinks warm water every morning, never touches coffee after 3 p.m., never takes sleeping pills, and rarely complains about anything. People often say she's a healthy senior because on the surface, everything looks fine. But there's one thing hardly anyone sees. Each night after 9 p.m., my mother begins to wait for sleep. She turns off the lights, pulls up her blanket, then turns on her phone. Not because she's addicted, but because it's her way of touching something soft, something joyful. A little window to the world outside her 4 quiet walls. She looks through family photos, old wedding clips, sometimes a video of a baby learning to walk that makes her laugh out loud. Then comes a message she hasn't replied to, a memory from a friend who's no longer here, a bit of news, an accident, some distant politics that somehow makes her chest feel heavier. My mother doesn't know it, but I began to notice. The nights she stayed on her phone late were always the nights she couldn't sleep. We both used to think it was just her age. She'd say, "I guess I just sleep less now that I'm old." But the truth is, it wasn't her age. It was that small blue light, gentle yes, but enough to confuse the brain about what time it really is. For younger people, the brain can handle screen time and still fall asleep. But after 70, everything becomes more sensitive. One unread message can keep the mind spinning. One emotional story can wake up alert hormones. One soft glow can trick the brain into thinking, it's not bedtime yet. And so instead of winding down, the body switches into alert mode. The heartbeat doesn't slow. The breath doesn't deepen. And if sleep comes at all, it arrives like a shy visitor, standing outside the door, waiting for a welcome that never comes. On those nights, my mother never says anything. She just sighs quietly as dawn begins to rise. Then she gets up earlier than usual, a little more tired, a little more silent. And I understand. It's not that she doesn't want to sleep. It's that she's unknowingly traded her rest for a brief moment of connection to a tiny world in the palm of her hand. A world that shines but doesn't soften. A light that feels like comfort, but quietly steals another night from her. So if someone out there is still awake, with that same soft glow, maybe they too need to hear this story. I began doing something I never thought I would. I started observing my mother's sleep, not in a way that interfered, not as a rule or a correction, just gentle notes I wrote down each morning. What time did she go to bed? Did she use her phone that night? Did she listen to music? Did she laugh? Was she quiet? I didn't mention any of this to her, because I knew if I asked too soon, she would brush it off. I'm old. Sleep however it comes. But after 1 week, a clear pattern appeared. The nights she didn't touch her phone after 9:30 p.m., she slept more easily, woke up lighter. And the nights she kept scrolling until sleep caught her eyes the next morning, she was groggier, and her smile didn't last as long. I held my little notes for a moment, then took them with me to our morning tea. Mom, what if tonight we put the phone down 30 minutes earlier and maybe listen to one of those soft songs you used to love? She pursed her lips, then chuckled. I was just watching Little T's giggles last night. So cute. Not sure music's gonna help me sleep. I didn't press. But that evening, I brought a speaker into her room and played Moon River, a tune she once said sounded like the wind across the open fields of her youth. I said nothing, just let it play for 3 minutes, then quietly walked out. The next morning, she asked gently, "What was that music you played last night?" It was so soft. I smiled. "Can we play it again tonight, maybe?" After we put the phone down a little earlier. She didn't answer, but that night, I saw her phone already folded shut, resting on the bedside table before 9:45. Then I brought her a small notebook. No title, no pressure, just this. If you feel like it, let's write 3 things we're grateful for every night. The first night she wrote, "Thankful for the sunny morning. Thankful for my grandchild's laughter. Thankful for the early cup of tea from my son." The second night she wrote again, and slowly putting the phone away before bed became something natural. Not because it was forbidden, but because she had found something else to soothe her heart. I drew a little calendar for her, taped it near her dresser. Each morning she marked it herself if she slept more than 5 hours. After 10 days, the calendar was full of check marks. Some even had little smiley faces next to them. One evening, she gently pulled me aside and asked, "It's not medicine. It's not some difficult exercise. Just putting the phone down a bit earlier, writing a few lines, and listening to music, and I can sleep again." I looked at her and nodded. "That's it, Mom. Maybe all we need is to give our hearts a little quiet before sleep steps in." She smiled. For the first time in many months, that smile wasn't tired. From that night on, before turning off the light, my mother did just 3 small things. Put her phone away before 9:30, wrote down 3 things she was grateful for, played a gentle piece of music, no strict rules, no tension, just a quiet ritual like lighting a small lamp to guide sleep back home. And I realized sometimes it's not that we need to try harder to sleep, it's that we need one thing less and one gentle thing more. My mother used to think, to sleep well again, she'd need to do something big. Take pills, practice deep breathing, or drink expensive herbal teas. But after slowing down together, she came to understand something. Sometimes sleep only returns if we clear a little path for it to come home. And that path began with the phone. Not throwing it away, not banning it, just putting it down a little earlier. My mother still uses her phone every day. She still looks at family photos, reads the news, and texts her old friends. But now she chooses to stop by 9:30 p.m., as if to tell herself, I've spoken with the world. Now it's time to speak with myself. Instead of that blue light from her screen, she turns on a gentle amber mode, like the sunset of a long day. Like in fairy tales when people blow out the big hall candles and leave only one small lamp glowing in their quiet room. She too dims the noise and the color to keep her eyes and her thoughts at rest. Each night, after setting her phone aside, she does 3 small things. Nothing fancy, but to her they became signals, little markers that say, "To sleep, I'm ready now." 1. Writing gratitude. She writes by hand on real paper, a small, soft-covered notebook by her bed. Some nights she writes, "Thankful for hearing birds this morning. Thankful my pillow didn't hurt my neck." Not poetic, not meant to be read by others. Just her way of reminding herself, I'm still here, and there's still something worth smiling about today. 2. Folding the blanket neatly. It may seem small, but she calls it tidying the heart. She smooths the blanket, straightens the sheet, fluffs the pillow, like brushing her hair before meeting an old friend. She prepares the bed as if she's welcoming someone she hasn't seen in years. Sleep. 3. Listening to gentle sound. She doesn't need lyrics, just the soft rhythm of forest wind, the tapping of rain on an old roof, or a quiet piano song she used to love when she was young. That sound fills the space after the light goes out, so that worries have no room to settle in. These small acts cost nothing, take no strength, but repeated each night, they've become a kind of quiet ritual, like opening a wooden door gently so that sleep can enter without fear of being turned away. One day I asked her, "What's different now compared to before?" She smiled. "I'm not afraid of going to bed anymore. I feel like I'm in charge again. I invite sleep now, I don't beg it to come." For my mother, that was the moment she got something precious back, her sense of control. She no longer says, "I hope I can sleep tonight." Now she simply says, "I've done my part. The rest is up to sleep." And strangely enough, when she stopped chasing sleep, it came. No knocking, no warning. It just knew the room was calm, the lights were low, and the heart was ready. If you're still awake, and the light in your room hasn't gone out yet, then maybe, just maybe, you're a little like my mother. It's not that you don't want to sleep, it's just that you might have forgotten how to believe that sleep can still come gently. Sometimes insomnia isn't about worry or illness. Sometimes it's just because we carry too many sounds in our head. A news story still playing, an image that weighed on the heart, a small light, not harsh, but just bright enough to keep the mind from resting. But here's what I've learned from the many sleepless nights my mother once lived through. Sometimes all it takes is one evening where she put down the phone, 30 minutes earlier, wrote a tiny line of gratitude, and sat still listening to an old song, and sleep would quietly return. No drama, no resistance, just stepping softly across the threshold and embracing her like an old familiar friend. So if you're still sitting here now, still hoping something might help you rest tonight, then tonight try something small. Set your phone down just 30 minutes earlier. Write down one thing you're thankful for today. Or simply sit still, turn off a few lights, and let your room say what your heart already knows. Today, I lived enough. Now, I'm allowed to rest. You don't have to do anything grand, because as my mother has come to understand, sleep doesn't like noise. It seeks the quiet. It goes where the lights are soft, and where the door is opened by a gentle habit repeated with care. If something you try tonight helps you rest, I hope you'll share it in the comments or tell someone you love, because maybe your small moment is exactly what helps someone else somewhere sleep more peacefully tonight. The night isn't scary when we learn to light a gentle lamp inside ourselves. Not the ceiling light, Not the phone screen, but the glow of stillness, of soft acceptance of a rhythm we can take back, one small step at a time. And you deserve that. You deserve to sleep well tonight. Not because you did everything perfectly, but simply because you lived fully today. Your sleep begins where your light ends. Wishing you a peaceful night. And if you've stayed with me this far, thank you, because you are not alone.